Chapter 1, Cracks in the Sky. The orbital citadel, humanity's crown jewel, drifted above the blue marble of Earth. No flags waved there, and no nations claimed dominion. A century ago, the banners of the old United Nations were lowered, replaced by the single emblem of the United Earth Alliance, a spiral of flame encircling a star, symbol of humanity's vow to endure as one. Inside the Grand Chamber, the Parliament of Nations gathered. Their faces, cultures, and languages were diverse, but their voice was singular. High Counselor Amina Reyes stood at the center, her voice calm but edged with unease. Colleagues, friends, reports from the lunar array confirm what the Martian colonies first witnessed. The constellations are shifting. Some vanish for hours, then return. Saturn's rings ripple as though caught in a tide, unseen. And now, the chamber lights flickered. A sudden silence descended. Through the vast viewport, the stars fractured. It was not thunder that shook them, nor the glow of lightning. Instead, the heavens themselves cracked, a jagged wound splitting the sky. Through the fracture, there was no light, starlight, or galaxies. Only silence, a silence that consumed. Panic surged through the chamber. Amina raised her hand. "Stay resolute." Then, the air shimmered. Figures emerged, not stepping through doors but arriving as fire woven into form. They were the guardians, ancient across infinities. Their bodies burned with unnameable colors. Their eyes held galaxies, and their voices echoed both as whispers and thunder. "People of Earth," one guardian intoned, its form like a flame sculpted into a man. "Your alliance has finally united you. But unity will be tested beyond imagining. This fracture you see is not of your making. It is the work of the architects of Null, who believe silence is perfection and existence a flaw. They will erase you and all realities, unless we stand together." The hall trembled. Some delegates gasped. Others bowed their heads in silent awe. Amina spoke, her voice steady though her hands trembled at her sides. "Earth stands as one. But if this war spans universes, tell us, Guardian, who else fights beside us?" The Guardian lifted a hand, and across the chamber, portals ignited, dark flame, yet radiant with life. Through them, figures emerged. The Lyrians, crystalline beings from a star of perpetual dawn. The Veari, aquatic civilizations who bore oceans within their flesh, their voices like tidal waves. The Corlon Confederacy, machine and mind entwined, survivors of a dying galaxy. The Dromeliths, towering stone-skinned nomads, bearing fragments of shattered worlds on their backs. Each had come through the portals of flame, connected across the lattice of realities. Each bore scars of battles already fought against the architects. The Guardian's voice rolled like thunder across silence. "The reality wars have begun. You must choose, children of Earth. Remain behind your fragile sky, or step forth as allies in infinity's defense." Amina Reyes stood taller, the emblem of the UEA shining above her. Humanity has made its choice. We are no longer divided. We are united Earth, and we will fight, not for Earth alone, but for all creation. The chamber erupted, not in fear, but in resolve. The UEA had spoken for all humankind. And so, Earth joined the infinite alliance against the silence. Chapter 2, The Architects of Null. The fracture widened above Luna, a wound across the void. The architects poured through, not an army in ranks, but a tide of shifting silence. The UEA fleet of Unity deployed at once. Sleek silver frigates, Martian-built dreadnoughts, Titan interceptors, human voices, many languages, one command structure. From the portals of flame, allied fleets emerged beside them. Lyrian lightships, crystalline vessels that sang in resonant tones. Veari, tide cruisers, flowing like oceans sculpted into ships. Corlon probability strikers, phasing between possible positions with every breath. Dromelith war barges, carved from mountain and star core, moving slower than thought, but heavier than worlds. Together, they formed the first shield of infinity. The architect struck. Their void rift split open near Mars, swallowing a cruiser whole. Entropy waves rolled across space, turning asteroids to dust instantly. Chains of silence lashed out, cutting off communication across the fleets. Human pilots screamed as their voices fell dead in their throats. Only silence, thick and crushing, filled the comms. But the Guardians appeared, their flame forms streaking between ships. They tore silence apart with every gesture, igniting it with soul flame sparks that rekindled comms and thought. High Counselor Amina Reyes stood in the Citadel command spire, speaking not to Earth alone, but to all species present. If silence is their weapon, then our unity is the answer. Stunt. Fight not as worlds, but as one flame. Her words carried, for a moment, across the silence itself. The Lyrian ships struck first, unleashing resonant beams that shattered an architect into shards of dark glass. The Vayari flowed around another, drowning it in tidal dream fire. Corlon probability cannons unmade entire squads of obsidian forms by firing into futures they had not yet chosen. The architects bent and rippled, reforming from shards, always returning. But they were slowed, contained. Finally, the Dromeliths moved. Their colossal warships surged forward, stone arms breaking across the void, slamming into the most prominent architect and forcing it back into the fracture. For the first time in their endless war, the architects retreated. The void closed, the silence lifted, and in the Citadel, across all portals, the first alliance of realities was born, not in treaty, but in shared blood and defiance. The Alliance Council, roster intentions. United Earth Alliance, UEA. High Counselor Amina Reyes, Earth, pragmatic, unshakable leader. Believes humanity's unity is fragile, but must be tested by fire. Admiral Kalen Zhou, UEA Fleet of Unity. Tactical genius, carries scars from Earth's last great wars. Distrustful of alien strategies, but loyal to the cause. Dr. Elias Nkosi, UEA Science Division. Physicist turned metaphysicist, obsessed with understanding how reality itself fractures. Allied civilizations. Lyrian High Resonant Vaithra, crystalline diplomat warrior. Speaks in harmonics, sees humans as raw but full of resonance. Curious and respectful. Vayari Dreamcaller Salith, an envoy who navigates battles through shared dreams. Holds disdain for humans' rigid minds but admires their fire. Corlon Archmind Velith, a collective consciousness embodied in one body. Logical, cold, views Earth as unpredictable, both dangerous and necessary. Dromelith Elder Karath, a nomadic mountain being. Slow to speak, but words weigh like planets. Believes humans are impatient, but sees potential in their unity. Alliance tensions. The Corlon distrust humanity's lack of foresight, fearing humans will destabilize probability warfronts. The Vayari resent human rigidity, wanting decisions made through dream consensus rather than voting. The Lyrians find beauty in humanity's unity, though they worry it may not last. The Dromeliths remain neutral observers, but warn, if humanity fractures again, the architects will not need to strike. Silence will bloom within you. This sets the stage. Humanity has earned respect in the first battle, but the Alliance Council is fragile, with tensions that could make or break the war effort. Chapter 3. The Call of the Nexus. The chamber of the orbital citadel was still heavy with the taste of silence left by the architects. Though the enemy had retreated, unease lingered. Ships were repaired, fleets reorganized, but hearts trembled. The Guardians' flames pulsed brighter, filling the chamber with warmth. One among them, sentience in flame, lifted its hand. From the motion came not words, but vision. Across every mind, the citadel vanished. Instead, they stood upon an infinite lattice, threads of light woven into a living loom. Each strand vibrated with life, each spark a universe. At the center burned a radiant flame that defied description. Not light, not heat, but the essence of existence itself. Dr. Elias Nkosi fell to his knees. It is alive. The multiverse itself breathes. The vision deepened. Dark fractures spread across the lattice, crawling like black frost, consuming strands into silence. And behind it all, an emptiness more ancient than time, the voiceless one, whose shadow erased even memory. The Guardian's voice thundered in all minds. This is the nexus of realities. It is the heart of all that is, was, and may yet be. It has awakened, calling for defenders. If it falls, all falls. When the vision faded, silence filled the citadel once more. But now it was not the architect's silence. It was the silence of choice. Admiral Kalen, Joe broke it first. If this nexus is alive, then it can be killed. And we've just seen it bleeding. Vayari dream, Caller Saliath's liquid form rippled in agitation. You humans speak always of death. The nexus does not die. It transforms. Dreams know this truth. Archmind Velith of the Corlon tilted its head, eyes glimmering like fractured prisms. Probability favors defeat. If the architects move faster, they will consume the lattice before we even arrive. Elder Karatha's voice rumbled, slow as mountains shifting. And yet, even mountains fall if they do not rise to meet the storm. We must walk. High Counselor Amina Reyes rose, her voice steady. We are united Earth. But now we must become united infinity. We cannot stay here while the nexus bleeds. Prepare the fleets. We set our course for the center of all things. A murmur spread across the council. Some in fear, some in awe, but none in refusal. The decision was made. The first alliance of realities would march to the nexus. Chapter 4: Gathering of the Flames. The Guardians summoned the Chosen into a great chamber carved of light and shadow, the Hall of Becoming, woven into the citadel by portal fire. There, each civilization was tested. The Lyrians stood before resonant crystals, their harmonics clashing with dissonant silence until they learned to fuse resonance with human song. The Vayari entered dream spheres, where their oceans met human imagination, discovering that Earth's raw creativity could fortify their dream fire currents. The Corlon faced probability labyrinths, weaving their cold logic with human unpredictability and finding power in chaos. The Dromeliths lifted fragments of shattered worlds, reforging them with guardian fire into shields of unimaginable strength. And humanity, standing at the center, was given its own trial. Guardians led Amina Reyes, Admiral Joe, and Dr. Nkosi into a chamber of shifting flame. There, they confronted not enemies, but their own shadows. Amina faced visions of Earth fracturing back into war. Joe fought against ghosts of battles lost, questioning his ability to lead across species. Nkosi confronted the possibility that knowledge could undo them, that some truths might unweave reality faster than silence. Each emerged changed, their flames deepened, their voices stronger. When they returned, sentience and flame raised its hand, and a forge of fire bloomed in the hall. The architects wield silence. You will wield flame, not of destruction, but of becoming. Here begins the forging of weapons, bonds, and destiny. Thus began the gathering of the flames. Forged in the gathering of flames. The forge within the hall of becoming did not burn with heat alone. It shimmered with paradox, fire that was dark as void, yet radiant with creation. Every civilization stepped forward to shape what would become their legacy. One, humanity, the aegis of unity, a shield woven from fragments of every human culture, steel etched with poetry, circuitry humming with Earth's digital pulse, and stone from ancient temples. It could deflect not just matter and energy, but intent itself, bending hostile will away. The blade of becoming, forged from the soul flame of the Guardians and tempered with human resolve. It shifts form according to its wielder's spirit, sword, spear, or staff. Its true power, to cut through false realities and reveal the truth beneath. The compass of tomorrow, a crystalline sphere bound in living flame, showing not fixed futures, but possible paths. It could not dictate fate, only illuminate the choices ahead. 2. Lyrians, resonant crystal beings. The chime of harmony, a lattice instrument forged from guardian fire and Lyrian resonance. When struck, it could transform dissonant architect silence into frequencies of life, reversing void fractures. Veil strings, threads of resonance woven into armor and ships, allowing them to sing themselves invisible in higher dimensions, vanishing from architect's sight. 3. Vayari, dream fluid oceanic minds. The tide heart, a liquid orb flowing with dream fire. It allowed them to pull the subconscious into reality, symbolizing courage, memory, and hope as tangible forces in battle. The lucid mantle, a cloak woven of dream water and guardian flame. It made the wearer immune to architect probability traps by anchoring them in their own unshakable identity. 4. Corlon, probabilistic hive intellects. The mirror of divergence, a shard of light obsidian, bending probabilities around its bearer. It could multiply possible outcomes, forcing the architects to face their own contradictions. Entropic spears, weapons that could pierce silence and unravel architect constructs by collapsing unlikely probabilities into certainty. 5. Dromeliths, living mountain giants. The world shards, reforged from fragments of their fallen worlds. Each was a weapon and a shield, carrying the gravity of lost civilizations. They could anchor entire fleets against reality collapse when struck into the ground. The mantle of ages, a living armor infused with guardian flame, turning its wearer into a bastion against the voiceless one's entropy. 6. The guardians, flame incarnate. The orb of infinite flame, the unifying creation, forged from the contributions of every species. It did not belong to any one hand. It pulsed as a living heart for the Alliance, its presence stabilizing portals, healing wounds in the Lattice, and igniting courage in all who fought beneath its light. Chapter 5. The First Front. The fleets of the United Earth Alliance surged through the portal, a gate of flame spanning universes. Beyond it lay not a world, nor a star, but a field of probabilities, an endless shifting sea of what could be. Ships flickered between states of existence. Some appeared intact, others shattered. Crews felt themselves living 1,000 lives at once. Victories, defeats, births, deaths, all collapsing back into the present. Admiral Zhou gritted his teeth. They've weaponized choice itself. We're fighting in a battlefield of maybe. The architects waited in the shifting expanse, their forms rippling between light, dark, and obsidian. Each movement unmade realities. Their silence struck like thunder, not heard, but felt in the sudden vanishing of possibilities. Dr. Nkosi shouted from the science deck. Without anchors, we'll unravel into fragments of ourselves. At his words, Elder Karath drove a world's hard into the probability sea. The ground of certainty erupted beneath the fleet, forming an island of stable reality. Ships stopped flickering, and soldiers breathed as one. The architect struck, silence crashing like tidal waves. But this time, the Alliance had their forged creations. Lyrians unleashed the chime of harmony, its tones cutting through architect's silence with resonant song. Vayari dream fire surged through the tide heart, conjuring visions of homeworlds that inspired soldiers to hold the line. Corlon unleashed the mirror of divergence, fracturing architect attacks into impossible contradictions that collapsed upon themselves. Humanity's blade of becoming sliced through architect projections, revealing their true forms, vulnerable, finite. But the battle was far from simple. Every choice, strike, retreat, protect, splits reality into countless shards. Some splinters showed the Alliance victorious, while others showed them annihilated. The Nexus itself seemed to whisper through the compass of tomorrow, guiding them toward paths where survival remained possible. And then the voiceless one stirred. Its shadow rippled across the probability sea, freezing possibilities into nothing. Fleets that had once existed were erased from memory, and commanders screamed as their ships never had been. Only the orb of infinite flame pulsed brighter, shielding the alliance with unity. Its fire burned away the silence long enough for Amina Reyes to give the order. All species strike together now. Forge one flame. Every weapon, every song, every shard, every dream converged in a single act of defiance. The void recoiled, the architects fractured, and the sea of probability bent. For the first time, the voiceless one retreated. But not destroyed. Never destroyed. The first front was won, but the alliance knew. Every battle ahead would not just test strength, but the very meaning of choice, unity, and existence. The voiceless one, origins and purpose. No civilization knew when the voiceless one began. The Guardians only whispered its name in fragments, each memory frayed as if gnawed upon by silence. Yet across infinite universes, a pattern emerged. Essence. It is not a being, but a counterforce, born when the first spark of creation split the void. Where flame is becoming, silence is unbecoming. It does not speak, because speech affirms existence. Its silence is a refusal, a denial that anything ever was. Form. When perceived, it appears as a shadow that devours shadows, an absence deeper than void. To mortals, it looks like a storm of unshaping, fractals collapsing inward, an impossible geometry that unravels memory as one gazes upon it. Purpose. Its will is simple, to return all to stillness. Not destruction for cruelty, but erasure, the undoing of time, matter, thought, even possibility. To the voiceless one, creation is a wound upon nothingness. It seeks only to close that wound. Weapons and agents. The architects of Null are fragments of its will, clothed in light, dark, and obsidian forms. They ripple because they are not whole, but reflections of a more bottomless void. Where they move, probabilities collapse, choices vanish, and silence spreads. They cannot create, only distort and erase. Yet, through deception, they can corrupt the living flame. Guardian prophecy. The Guardians whisper. When the flame first breathed, silence awoke to smother it. The two are bound. Neither can end unless both end. Thus, the war is not merely survival. It is a cosmic paradox. To destroy silence would undo flame. To preserve flame is to accept silence as an eternal adversary. The nexus lies at the center, the balancing heart.